Instagram, part of Meta, right, employs a lot of people, and a large portion of them are designers.
Yeah.
So you also mentioned that within Instagram, there is also a team that normally we don't expect them to exist, but they actually exist, and it makes a lot of sense. Can you tell us what that team is?
Definitely. There's a team that actually, so what they do is they actually kill experiments on Instagram pretty
Oh,
much to get like the right products out and to focus on the right things. And once again, I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of product designers on that team working, doing A/B testing and stuff, right? And
yeah.
running experiments. And I just think a lot of people, and before we get into like all the different roles at IG that I would love to share with
Hmm.
everyone watching this, a lot of people believe, especially when I look at bootcamp portfolios and even entry level portfolios, a lot of people believe that, oh, designers are just period, like people in user experience, they're just designing for users, or they're using tools and frameworks all day, or they're focusing on like just simple flows, right? And it kind of paints the wrong picture, and it's not accurate of what you will be doing on a day-to-day job. Some product design jobs, believe it or not, you don't use any tools or frameworks that I've seen in a bunch of portfolios. You don't at all. You just solve the problem at hand, and it's solving through whether it's stakeholder communication, whether it's systems thinking, whether it's thinking through a problem like strategically for the business, and et cetera, and so on and so on.
Yeah, no, definitely, because like we just talked about, it's a lot more than the service level design that we used to understand, which still exists, obviously, but then a lot of things behind the scene. Historically, it might have been somebody else who's been doing it, but I guess companies have evolved to realize that it's better for someone who understands what comes in front, and then kind of like combine it in the quote
Yeah.
unquote back end. And then, yeah, you talked about all these different functions within Instagram, aka IG. So can you tell us a little bit about what sort of big buckets there are, and because entry level folks really want to understand if they are going for a job, right? They're up for this role, and sometimes in the job descriptions, the titles, it says the department, and no, they don't even understand what it is, right? And it helps if you do, because most other folks might not, and if you do and you tell them that in the interview, they will be very impressed. So what are some of the big buckets are we looking at Instagram?
Definitely. I want to say this really quickly. It's not just entry level people. It is people, because I know that like a lot of folks don't live in New York or San Francisco or Atlanta or California or Seattle, right? So there's probably going to be a lot of people who don't understand this, that work at smaller startups, and they're doing like a big bulk of the work while having a lot of design debt in a sense. Or you have people that work at mid-level companies or even larger companies that don't have a bigger design team, and they're doing a bulk of the work, right? But with companies like Instagram and Meta and all these other different companies, they can become more nuanced. So when you think about Instagram and how it evolved over the years, these are the roles that Instagram had to fit in order to make itself successful. Because there's a reason why it's still going toe to toe to TikTok, and there's a reason why it's been surviving since 2008. So when you think of IG, it's like, okay, now we're no longer a site that serves pictures, but now we need to run experiments on the platform. But we also need people to kill those experiments. So that's a growth design role, right? Where we can
Yep.
use data and we can see things. Okay, so now we need to add more flavor. We need to add more variety. So let's get people who are really good at animation, prototyping, that's really good at, coming up with different things for the stories and reels and even videos team. Okay, so now that we have like the stories and reels, why don't we give users the ability to customize all of these different settings? So that's called consumer experience, where people can go in their features and customize Instagram to their liking. And now that we have the consumer experience, we have all these different features and settings, and it's kind of toppling on one another. How can we structure that setting so people can find what they like? People can find like the archives of their stories and all of that. Well, that's a UX architect. That's when they come in and they help categorize all these things, right? Okay, so now that we have a consumer experience, we're starting to notice that people aren't so nice. They're leaving hateful messages. Folks are trying to scam people, right? People are trying to do all of this stuff. Okay, so why don't we create a health team? These will be folks that work on helping people block folks, mute people, and different stuff. Oh, why don't we get them on the stories team as well? And matter of fact, there's this new thing called Messenger that we're integrating through Instagram. And
Yep.
with Messenger, you can customize it, and that's a beast on its own, right? Through like an
Mhm.
architecture and a way that it works, and how people can send from stories and all this other stuff. Oh, let's get some health team in Messenger too, because they be trying to scam in there, right? So now we have our advertising in business. This is the way that we make a lot of money, but we want to customize it. We don't want to make it vague or generic. So how can we give our advertising and business people more like more ways to connect with their audience? Okay, let's create a team for that. Oh, now we have content creators. Advertisers want to connect with them. They want to, content creators are taking off. And these are big names. We can't lose them to other platforms. Let's create a team for that as well. But how about these paid services with advertisers and content creators? Also, the ways that we can set them up with different features and different accounts and all these different things, right? That they can pay for, and they can also see different tools and things. All right, let's create a monetization team for that. That's in between both of those teams as well. Okay, so how can we see if they're performing, right? How many impressions they have, how many things they can see, right? For advertisers and content creators. Why don't we get an analytics team to focus on that and build something out, right? From scratch through different data visualizations and the way that they can view that. All right, so now content creators and advertisers, they want to connect more, and we're starting to see a disconnect between people that don't have websites and all this different stuff. And people over at Twitter, they're like dropping the ball, right? Because they're like going viral saying, I own a small brick and mortar. Okay, why don't we add a shop team? That'll be really great. Matter of fact, let's get some of the messenger people, let's get some of the health people in there, and let's get some of the monetization people in there as well to work with advertisers in business. Okay, so now we're scaling super fast. Like you said, Stella, at the beginning of the call, we have a bunch of icons that's all over the place. We keep changing them all the time. We keep experimenting and changing stuff with the growth team, and our developers need to ship this stuff super fast as well. So let's get a design systems and infrastructure team so they can create components so the design teams can be structured. Okay, so now that we have these different systems, right? I'm thinking that there's like a lot of machine learning going on. We really need to get into that, but there's kind of a disconnect between the developers and the design team on how the algorithm will work. So why don't we just get designers to work with the developers, and they can be the middleman between like product design and all these other different places. That's the systems team, like similar to Adobe XD. So now we can figure out through Messenger, through health, right, how all these different things are working and how people are blocking certain content that they don't want to see. All right. Oh, we service the rest of the world, and believe it or not, they're not like North America. Japan, they take pictures completely different. Russia, they do things different. They, their language is different. So that's going to mess with typography. Okay, let's get a team on global, and let's station some of these global teams in all these different parts so we can build a bigger relationship with our customers. Oh, India is taking off. Okay, so now that we're scaling super fast as a company, we're growing. Why are we spending $1 million on all this software and all these different tools that we're using? Why don't, since we're owned by Meta, why don't we have some kind of internal tool or some kind of enterprise product that's specific to Instagram? Okay, what were you thinking about? Well, first, let's get rid of GitHub. Let's get rid of all this other stuff for developers, and let's have someone who's super good at coding as a designer build a tool for developers to ship faster. Internal tools. Wow, now there's marketing, right? Now there's branding and all these other teams that's putting stuff on Instagram. Let's get some over there. And now, okay, so what's going on? We're too big. Our teams are a mess. We are all over the place. It's super complex, right? With the problems that we're focusing on. That's called design ops. So design ops or design program management comes in, and they're like the grease that keeps things moving on getting the correct meetings, getting correct stakeholder alignment as well, getting correct teams together, figuring out with recruiters, right, what job is needed for what specific thing. Bam, you have it right there. And you know what? That's just Instagram. Imagine companies like Google, Microsoft, and Apple, right, with the operating systems that they have. Imagine companies and so many different others, even YouTube as well, on the problems that they're focusing on and how nuanced it is. And it's pretty deep.
Wow, Kerry, I have to say that that was very impressive. You practically just created a interview prep book for anyone who's trying to get into Meta, Instagram, whatever they want to get into. They don't need anything else. They just need to watch this video, rewind a few times, maybe slow down on a few things, and they're gonna impress the interviewer just by watching this video. And you might get a call. I predict that you might get a call from someone who's from there, and they might try to talk to you about it, because that was very impressive. And honestly, thank you so much. That was a very good summary of the behemoth of an organization, like, a big tech like Meta, previously Facebook, and so many other companies, right? Like Google, for example. It's another beast and could even be more complicated. We don't know that, but I would say, though, with someone like yourself who has done so much research into these type of companies and really get the I guess, an in-depth understanding of what everything does, even though you may not be working on any of them, is what will get you a leg up, really, in this world, because you show that you care, you're knowledgeable, and that actually defeats a lot of other people, because a lot of folks are just like applying day by day, but they're not really looking to impress anyone in general. They're like, okay, here's me, whoever picks me. That's not a very, proactive attitude, right? So I guess the next point I want to talk about is, what do you think it really takes to be a good product designer? Where can a junior start?